Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06. It's O'Connor and Company this third day of December. I want to remind you our Fisher House Radiothon commences Thursday morning. As for the next 2 days, we will be incorporating much of our programming and content to tell the story of Fisher House, our military, our veterans, our wounded, their families, their spouses, and the great work that we all can do together to help those who need it the most when they need it the most. That begins Thursday morning through Friday's Vince Colonnese show. We can't wait to do it. Also coming up this morning at 7:05, Tom Fitton Judicial Watch on the Hunter Biden pardon, more fallout, more details, and the fight for Kash Patel at the FBI. 7:35, very excited to have a guest in studio, the incredibly courageous Chloe Cole. You know her as sort of the face of detransitioning. Is that fair to say? I hate reducing somebody to that medical procedure, that horrific, I don't even want to use the word medical, that mutilation procedure, but she's decided that she wants to be that person to represent
100%.
the transgender industry.
I think she's proud to be.
Yeah, and she is so resilient, so incredible, and she's in town for a rally tomorrow because the Supreme Court is finally hearing arguments about a case that could protect children going forward. 8:05, Brent Bozell Media Research Center. And 8:35, boy, we're just surrounded by heroes today. Robbie Starbuck, who has been the tip of the spear fighting against corporate DEI policies, and he has had W after W after W. We just talked about Walmart the other day. Robbie Starbuck will be our guest. Are you ready to be inspired by people today? Look at these heroes that we get to talk to. Tom Fitton, Chloe Cole, Brent Bozell, Robbie Starbuck.
Honestly,
legends.
We have the best executive director.
You know what? Our executive producer is the greatest, Heather Hunter, for lining this up for all of our listeners.
Guests.
I got nothing else.
I know.
What can we
let's
just wait for 2 hours till Tom Fitton gets here. Here,
right.
Go. Say so. What'd you cook last
sit
night?
here with me. Oh, well, no. Let's leftover night. That's not a good subject.
When do you stop having turkey leftovers?
Oh, my God. My kids are so tired of it.
Turkey tetrazzini.
I act like I have the neighbors coming. I just make insane amounts of food. Anyway, we're done. We're done after tonight.
Well, last night Meredith said, "Can we mix it up a little, please?" And I said, "Sure." And so I ordered chicken. It's just a tiny version of what I've been
I did get a
eating.
request for pizza. It didn't happen, and it's not going to happen tonight. But
we had a thing. I haven't asked you this yet. We're going to get into the continuous reaction to the Hunter Biden pardon.
Yes.
Karine Jean-Pierre did speak, although not on camera. Boy, it's so sly the way they do this. I told you she did a gaggle on the airplane on the way to Africa. We'll get into the details of that in a minute. But so it's just audio, but we'll play it for you. But it's important to talk about turkey leftovers, I think. This chicken that I ordered, I hadn't tried it, but it just moved in. Have you heard of Hangry Joe's?
oh my gosh, of course.
I've never had Hangry Joe's
Oh
before.
yeah, there's one right by my house.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Spicy,
my boys love
spicy Korean chicken nuggets. What more do you want in your life?
Nice.
Oh,
nice. Ooh.
So good. So good.
They also have very good sandwiches.
Do they?
They're sort of the Nashville hot sandwich.
Oh, so we had these nuggets. Oh, I didn't realize. I just saw the recommend.
Oh,
so
no.
I think because I have I order a lot of Asian, if you know what I mean.
Well, we have very close to my house. Also, we have Annandale, which is where all the Korean restaurants are. So we don't go to Hangry Joe's for
Korean fast food because they are Korean. Apparently, the
Really?
owners or founders
Really?
of it. Yeah. So it's these Korean chicken nuggets with rice, with white rice.
Oh
and
God.
It was so good. And the okra, the fried okra that they have. Have you tried that?
They
have fried okra as a
I love
side.
fried okra.
All right. So this portion of O'Connor and Company
I also
brought
make
to you by
okra.
Hangry Joe's.
I also make okra in the air fryer with no breading.
Is that
It's
right?
delicious.
And what do you do to get the slime out? Because they're
You don't.
slimy.
You
But you just
don't.
like the
You're
slime.
fine.
All right.
Grow up.
We'll get into that later. Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday. So this is a real cute trick. Joe Biden announces his pardon and then leaves the country, heads to Africa, doesn't take any questions, of course. Jill Biden, by the way, who last I checked really likes the spoils of her job as First Lady and travels anywhere she can, because she's got to fill out that wardrobe that's so exceptional. But she stayed behind. Isn't that interesting that she did not accompany her husband to Africa?
Well, it ain't Paris.
Oh, all right. There's that.
She does love sort of the Hamptons and Paris and London a little bit more than.
Honey, we've got another trip coming. Oh, great. Where are we going? Africa. Oh, I've got a really
I'll
full schedule. I'm going to stay here and show the world the nightmare that was Christmas at the White House this year.
Oh, my.
It looks like a 3-year-old decorated, si c'est Broadway. So Jill stays back. Joe goes to Africa. And here's a little quirky thing about the Air Force One Wi-Fi. Did you know? I don't know if you know that. I just learned this yesterday from Mark Halperin, who was doing a live stream about this yesterday with Sean Spicer. If you're a member of the press pool and you're on the plane, there's only like 10 seats. Well, there's 12 seats total on Air Force One, but some of them go to cameramen and sound technicians. So actual journalists, probably on the back of Air Force One, you can count on 2 hands. But there's probably 7 or 8 that go on the press pool, especially internationally. Now, oftentimes they bring a second plane with them, especially if it's campaign season.
Sure.
Not a lot of people are covering Joe Biden going to Africa, though, right? Because they didn't know that he was going to break news on his way up, the steps at the tarmac.
Sure.
So if you're flying domestically over the continental United States and you're in the press pool and something happens on the plane, you can fire away on your laptop, connect to Wi-Fi, and you can file that story, and your bureau picks it up, and it gets published while you're still in the air. Which is how most of, like, you're flying American, you're flying United. That's exactly what you could do because you're connected to Wi-Fi. You're playing solitaire, you're doing whatever you want,
Doesn't
right?
work.
When you're flying internationally on Air Force One, now again, if you're on American Airlines, if you're on Delta and you're flying to Africa, you can get all the work done you want connected to Wi-Fi. But if you're a member of the press pool on Air Force One, the second you leave U.S. territory, you can no longer connect to the internet.
Wow.
So every single thing that was said for 14 hours in the air while Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre had this little breaking story about the Hunter Biden pardon, nothing got reported. It was radio silence. You think that was an accident?
No, I don't.
No, it wasn't. Finally, though, when wheels down in Africa with Air Force One, we got the video, or excuse me, audio only. No video, just audio of Karine Jean-Pierre answering questions. Now, I want to remind you before we get into this, this is what Karine Jean-Pierre had said repeatedly for the last year as people asked about a potential pardon.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentences for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no, and I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
Most definitive thing you'll ever hear from that woman, right? I'll refer you to the White House counsel's office is what you would normally hear, right? That's not really something that I'm going to get into here. It's a family matter. Hunter Biden is not a member of the administration. I'll refer this to the White House counsel's office or the Justice Department. No. She didn't do that sidestep like she always does. She said definitively, it's been no, it will be no, it's not going to happen. More?
Second one, would the president pardon or commute his son if he's convicted?
So I've answered this question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no.
Yeah, she was very clear. And then, of course, Joe Biden went ahead and did it. So Joe Biden lied. Karine Jean-Pierre either lied knowingly or she was lied to by her boss. Either way, she has no credibility, so she's just resigning, right? She's going to, with dignity, walk out of it.
No.
Now, in a moment, we'll let you hear what she says now to the assembled reporters on Air Force One as the question of the hypocrisy, the lies, the double standards, and, well, just business as usual with Joe Biden. Soaring over the Atlantic on the way to Africa, getting out of town, right after Joe Biden issued that all-encompassing 11-year pardon. Real fast, in the flashback audio, you heard one of the reporters say, could he commute the sentence? Could he, because these were all options. They were all options that Joe Biden could have done, but he didn't. Because that would have been, you're talking about the least politically damaging thing, or the thing that might have, it's really about the loving, desperation of a father for his son, then it's like, okay, he pled guilty, but I'll commute the sentence so he doesn't have to go to prison. That, I think, would have had some level of,
sure.
But no.
No, but this wasn't about the gun charge or the tax evasion.
And it wasn't about a love of a father for his son.
No, this is about Joe protecting Joe in many ways.
And the whole scam.
I'm kind of curious about, and I know we'll get into this later and we can ask Tom Fitton about this, but his brother, Biden's brother has not received a pardon so far. Are there more pardons to come?
Good question. All right, so here's the question and answer with reporters yesterday.
You have said repeatedly yourself since the election, the president has said for months, no pardon was coming. I wanted to ask you, could those statements now be seen as lies from the American people? Is there really a credibility issue here given now this announcement?
First of all, one of the things that the president always believes is to be truthful to the American people. That is something that he always truly believes. And if you see the end of his, I assume that you've read his statement, and you look at the end of that statement, and he actually says that in the first line in the last paragraph, and respects the thinking and how the American people will actually see this in his decision making. And I would encourage everyone to read in full the president's statement. I think he lays out his thought process. He lays out how he came to this decision. He came to this decision this weekend. So let's be very clear about that. He says it himself. It's in his voice. He said he came to this decision this weekend. And he said he wrestled with this. And because he believes in the justice system, but he also believes that the war politics infected the process and led to a miscarriage of justice.
Miscarriage of justice from the Justice Department. So now a couple of follow-ups, which of course never occurred. First of all, I love this. While she was saying that in the air over the Atlantic, NBC News was reporting that, quote, it was decided at the time that he would publicly say he would not pardon his son, even though doing so remained on the table.
Right.
So NBC News is basically undermining that message right then and there, number one. All right. Number two, incredibly important. When Joe Biden said that he would not pardon his son and that he respected the decision of the courts and the Justice Department, was he lying about that? Because he says now in his statement that this was all politically motivated and that they had targeted his son. Well, did he just have that realization this weekend? What changed? That's right. The second follow-up question. What's different today than 6 months ago when this plea deal was made?
Well,
can you answer that question?
I can answer what the Democrats are saying, what they were saying yesterday, because the spin was out, right? You had these sort of Democrats on cable news, quickly trying to get, Ana Navarro and all these sort of lackeys for Biden.
I'm sorry, she's not a Democrat. She's a Republican consultant and strategist. I'm sorry. That's just contractually, you got to throw that out there.
Is she calling you right now? Anyway, they were all saying, well, what changed is the election of Trump. That's what changed. This is their excuse. I'm just saying that they said the election of Trump, and Trump is going to use lawfare. Of course, this is so Soviet, right? Of course, they're conveying what they've already done.
Totally get that. And by the way, that is true, because they knew that Kamala Harris would just say, all right, well, call off the dogs, nothing will happen. But I get that. So in other words, Trump will take this plea deal and take this ongoing investigation and actually take it seriously. Mm-hmm. Because, again, the political motivation of the Justice Department couldn't have just occurred because Trump won the election.
I know.
It had to have been in play back then.
Right.
But he was betting on the fact that Kamala Harris would ignore the law.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And so,
but did they realize they're admitting that when they say the Trump election is what changed?
They don't care. But it's also how they spin it. They don't say that Trump's going to launch an investigation, or Congress is going to launch an investigation into Burisma and the corrupt Biden family. They say Trump is going to go after this family. He's going to use his Justice Department to seek revenge. So it's all how you spin it, right? But that was the narrative coming out of the left yesterday.
Do you think this would have happened if Harris hadn't lost the election?
Look, I'm not gonna get into the election. It is a no. I can answer that. It is a no. And what I can say...
This would not have happened if Harris hadn't lost the election. The pardon would not have happened if Harris hadn't lost the election.
I can speak to where we are today. And so I can't speak to hypotheticals here. Where we are today, the president made this decision.
Did you see what happened there, though? The question was, do you think it would have happened if Harris hadn't lost the election? And she said, well, I can't answer that. I don't want to get in the election, but it's a no. And like two reporters said, whoa, hold on. Did you just say
if Harris had won,
that Harris had won, there
would
not
have been a pardon?
And then there was a long pause, and she said, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals.
Right.
So she sort of revealed right there.
And we know that is...
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
President-elect Trump has likened this to the case of the so-called January 6thers, the people who are in prison because of their role in January 6th. What do you think of that argument? And do you think that that's a fair parallel, that he believes he shouldn't think?
Today I'm going to talk about the pardon. We've been very clear about January 6th. The president has been clear about that. He's spoken to that many times before. What we believe in this particular case is what is unprecedented is the way that his son was singled out.
Okay, so this is interesting. First of all, she's
out.
conceding that the Justice Department singles out people and clearly singles them out for political purposes. That's unprecedented, and that deserves a pardon. Now, the question was framed, does this compare to January 6th? So I guess the argument here is if you can make the case that individuals were singled out by the Justice Department for political purposes, then it warrants a pardon. Mm-hmm. And, well, game on. Thank you.
Yeah, well, then
Thank
I
you
guess
very much.
Trump deserves a pardon.
Exactly. It's 5:24.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36. Thanks. We are plowing through this news cycle Tuesday morning on the third day of December. Coming up at 7:05, Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch. More fallout from the pardon and the fight ahead for Kash Patel at the FBI. 7:35. So honored to have Chloe Cole in studio. She, of course, is probably the most famous detransitioner during the last several years of this transition mania. And she's in town for a rally tomorrow as the Supreme Court takes up a case that could outlaw transitioning across the board. 8:05, well, for children, excuse me. Let me be specific about that. 8:05, Brent Bozell, Media Research Center. And then at 8:35, Robbie Starbuck on his war on woke corporations. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Speaking of Brent Bozell and the media reaction and how they've had to contort themselves to sort of reconcile all the glowing things they've said about the Bidens in the past with this brazenly corrupt political move. We're going to get to all of those reactions in a moment. I do want one other moment here with Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday that I want to get in here because it's important to our conversation with Tom Fitton at 7:05.
He's saying his own Justice Department is broken, Karine.
He believes in the Justice Department. He believes that there was
saying all that. He believes in the Justice Department?
This is his words. He said this. This is the president saying
He
this.
just said it's infected with politics.
I said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision-making. I kept my word, even as I have watched my son.
By the way, this shows you that Karine Jean-Pierre recognizes how bad this is, the fact that she's going back to the original. Let's just stick with the original statement.
Yes.
Whenever you're in trouble, whenever you have an issue, just go back to the original statement, okay? Because the obvious hypocrisy here. Oh, he believes in the Justice Department. Wait, he just said it's infected and corrupt with politics.
Yeah, which we agree with.
Yes, thank you.
Being selectively and unfair prosecution.
So how deep is the rot? How many selective prosecutions are there at the DOJ?
What I can speak to is this particular case.
That I don't know who that reporter is, but I want to buy him a drink. That's the question. So how many selective prosecutions are there? Or is it just the president's son, who also happens to be a crack addict and did business and made millions of dollars overseas?
Are any of those cases against Trump part of this
Is that
corrupt
possible?
system at DOJ? Yeah. Of course, you might want to buy him a beer. I don't, because he didn't ask that follow-up.
That's fair. Scott Jennings, a little bit at a time. Just a little bit at a time.
Okay.
Scott Jennings.
I have no time for magnanimity at this point, but go on.
Julie Gunlock and I, of course, are the co-founders of the Scott Jennings fan club. He's the only reason to watch CNN right now, and he's really coming into his own. Days like yesterday were made for Scott Jennings on CNN.
I thought he hurt himself with the eye rolling, though. I was really worried about Scott.
Here he is with Karen Finney.
I don't think that he was lying. I think he made a decision after the fact and decided this was the right thing for him and for his family. Period. Full stop. Donald Trump decided that it was okay to pardon
Joe Biden, Karine Jean-Pierre. How many minutes of tape do we have of both of these people telling the American people this will not happen? It's I mean, we could play it all morning. It's a lie, and it's a lie to benefit his own family.
By the way, my favorite part of the exchange that we don't have right here, but Scott Jennings said, Karen, you don't have to defend this.
Oh, I know. It was brilliant.
You don't have to defend this. It's okay for you to, speaking with Karen Finney, it's okay for you to call this what it is.
Yeah, Karen Finney, wasn't she a Republican at one point?
Oh, probably.
I don't know. Anyway, he did.
It benefited
but I
her.
did love that moment where he's appealing to, he's like, be a human being just for 5 minutes.
Finally, Ellie Honig of CNN actually spoke truth.
This pardon will tarnish Joe Biden's legacy. I mean, Joe Biden, let's be clear here. He lied to us for a long time.
Thank you. That's just
okay. I get it, Larry, and I get it. It's nice to hear this from the media, but honestly, the man has been suffering from cognitive decline for years, and his entire press apparatus lied about it. He lied about it. Jill lied about it. Everyone around orbiting the Biden family lied about it. And now he pardons his son. Everybody's like, oh, my God, he's a liar?
No, he's been a liar his whole career. What I'm only playing this and saying thank you because that's a singular individual. The rest of them are still maintaining that he didn't even lie about this.
I know.
For God's sake. Andy McCabe, disgraced former FBI assistant director.
My initial impression was this is the president's desire to protect him for the longest period that reflects the president's time of service in the White House.
By the way, I'd love that. Why did it go back to 2014? Well, it was to protect his son from his father's service. Wait a second. His father started in the White House in 2009, you moron. So right there, so Andy McCabe can't even give any kind of analysis on this without lying and covering it.
He wanted to protect him for the longest period of time that he could. But I have to say that it made me think of the conversation with Hunter and Jill when he was going to, and, President Biden when he was going to make this decision. Mm-hmm. And they're like, just be good from now on. Like, don't do it again because I can't protect you after this.
But nevertheless, the effect of that very broad 10-year time frame is, ironically, it will perpetuate the conspiracy theories and the accusations around Hunter Biden.
Yeah, the real sad thing about this wide, broad, sweeping pardon going all the way back to 2014 is it'll perpetuate conspiracy theories.
Which conspiracy? The laptop that proved to be true?
The ones that suggest that he was engaged in felonious behavior for the last 10 years.
Trafficking underage prostitutes.
That he just got pardoned for. Yes. All right, are you ready for The View?
Oh, well.
Are you ever ready for The View, really?
Hold on, let me take a Xanax.
Sunny hosted, had plenty to say, and you'll hear that next. And Charlemagne. And, oh God, the Meet the Press, Todd. Chuck Todd. Chuck Todd of Meet the Press. Oh, it's great stuff with Chuck Todd. His goatee was on fire yesterday. And you'll hear that next at 5:43.
Join us for the 2024 Fisher House Radiothon Grand Finale, Friday, December 6th, from 3 to 6, live from Fair Oaks Mall on WMAL.
This may be one of my favorites. I heard this yesterday, or saw it on my feed, Julie, and I immediately thought of you because I know that you have a special place in your heart for Dr. Jill Biden. Listen to this analysis from Jeff Zeleny at CNN.
Clearly, there was pressure inside the family. We were told really in recent weeks that Dr. Jill Biden, First Lady Jill Biden, was very supportive of the president doing something like this. The president was not sure, but we clearly have seen now he has come to this decision to pardon his son Hunter.
So this, quite possibly the most disastrous moment in Joe Biden's entire long, pathetic political career, the thing he does going out the door, the thing he'll be remembered for other than his debacle on stage at the debate, and then in an unprecedented fashion getting pushed off of the ticket. This thing was Jill's idea.
Not surprised.
Well, what do you make of it? Why do you think that she pushed it?
Is. I've always said she's like Carmela Soprano. She is this sort of mob figure who was determined to keep her husband in that role as president because she loves the power. Remember that Vanity Fair or Vogue article where she said she loved it when the streets are closed down so that her limo can just glide through and people sort of part like the Red Sea as she can walk through corridors. She loves it.
An awesome exercise of power.
Yes,
yeah.
It's gross.
So you have the power to do it. Just do it. Also, I think part of this was, listen, Joe, you're not going to be around much longer.
That's right.
I got to live with Hunter the rest of my life.
Yes.
I don't need this hanging over me.
I keep remembering that scene on 4th of July where they had just found the cocaine in the White House, and he is obviously
acting really weird on the balcony there.
And he's like rubbing his nose, and Jill Biden is sitting there, like hanging onto that railing. Yeah. And trying to ignore him, she just does not want to have to deal with this.
And she will. I mean, she'll be the last one standing as the matriarch of the family.
But this is one way out.
Sunny Host in yesterday. There's a lot from The View. There's a lot of whoopee from The View. There's a lot. But you're right. Their main thesis was, well, if Trump could get elected and he's a felon, then what's wrong with this? Which, by the way, if the entirety of the argument from the left is Joe is, after all the things they've said about Trump, that Joe Biden is basically the same, then fine. You can live with that, I suppose.
These are women who have been so upset about Trump and his treatment of women or whatever, his grab him comment. And you have Hunter Biden clearly trafficking young women.
Exploiting innocent
Exploiting
girls.
prostitutes and young women. And they don't care.
No.
They don't care.
No.
The only reason that Hunter Biden was gone after and charged, indicted, and found guilty was because his name wasn't Joe Smith, it was Hunter Biden.
Well, okay, now a couple of things there. She may be right, by the way, and again, she should be the first person happy that Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are going to go in there and clean up that cesspool of corruption that only goes after people because of their last names. But can we also say something? You could be right that the only reason they went after him because his last name was Biden instead of Smith. But at the same token, the only reason that he's able to sell paintings for $500,000 is because his last name isn't Smith. The fact that he could make millions of dollars from China and Ukraine and Kazakhstan and Moscow for nothing. The board seat on Burisma without having any knowledge of gas or petroleum or
Thumb
natural
his
gas.
nose at Congress when he's called up there to testify.
Is because he got away with all of these things his entire life because his last name was Smith. The only reason that he could traffic in prostitutes and deal in drugs and have all these under the noses of Secret Service agents who were law enforcement, but they let it all happen and he never got arrested by anybody for any of his drug use was because his last name was Smith. So this sort of works both ways, doesn't it, Sonny?
Threw away a gun and then they told the Secret Service and they plucked it out of that garbage can.
That's right.
You think that's because his name, you don't think that has anything to do with the fact that he's the president's son?
That's
it
right.
does.
Yeah.
Hunter was singled out because he broke the law. That's number one. He was singled out because he had an illegal gun and tax evasion charges, not because he was the president's son. And I honestly don't care. I just want Democrats to stop acting like they are on this moral high ground politically when they have shown us they're not, whether it's skipping the primary process when Biden stepped down and things like Biden pardoning his son. Stop acting like y'all the pure party and Republicans aren't.
There you go.
Now
That's
he realizes
Charlemagne.
he's been a tool of the left.
Charlemagne.
For how long?
The God. But I would go all the way back to, there's multiple. I go back to the Clinton administration, for God's sake. That's the thing. When everyone says, but Trump does this, like, welcome to my world. I've been living with corruption in Washington, D.C. when Democrats hold the reins of powers for decades now. And you're angry that Trump, by the way, all the things that they say Trump did, the vast majority of them are complete and total bogus crap. All right. Moving on. Chuck Todd. I promised you Chuck Todd. This is on Chris Cillizza's podcast because, of course, Chris Cillizza has a podcast. Now you know. You wouldn't have known had I not told you about it. Chuck Todd talking about the pardons.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentence for his son, Hunter.
Sorry, that's what happens when the cut sheet resets. Here you go.
I followed the Hunter Biden trial very closely. Mm-hmm. I read every transcript, all the testimony, because that's what all that was made public. And there is you want to get angry. Just as somebody in just all these mixed emotions, you read the Hallie Biden transcript, and that's Bo's widow.
Yes.
And essentially he turned her into a crack addict. And this was all happening in 2017, 2018. And Joe and Jill Biden were so concerned about their family that they decided to run for president.
Where was this? Where was this? From Chuck Todd for the last 8 years of our lives. When Chuck Todd participated in elevating Jill and Joe Biden up like they were Captain and Mrs. America, for God's sake, and the most pristine family. And now suddenly Chuck Todd is like, this guy. And I can't believe they did this to their son and they decided to run for president. I'm sorry. Does Chuck listen to this show? Is that where he got that information?
Yeah,
because it's...
Yeah, it's disgusting. And I mean, again, Chuck Todd was one of the pushers of the Russia collusion hoax.
Of course.
He has called Trump he's charged Trump with every horrible act under the sun, saying he's a dictator. He's going to be a dictator on day one. He's going to, put, journalism, he's going to kill journalism in America. I mean, he has the alarmism that this guy has.
Chuck Todd and journalists like him have killed journalism in America with that propaganda. All those things that he just said about Hunter Biden, Hallie Biden, Beau Biden's widow, Jill and Joe Biden, their narcissism, their selfishness, their destruction of their own son, all of that. It's all been known. It's been known for years while Chuck Todd was the host of Meet the Press.
Yes.
And you wonder why Meet the Press is a disaster place right now. I don't know what business Chuck Todd is in, but it's certainly not journalism. But get ready, because Chuck's leading the charge now. They're all going to find religion. They're all going to discover Jesus in the next 6 weeks to 8 weeks as they talk about Biden 6, 8, 9 months from now. They're going to talk about what a creep he is. We were way ahead of the curve on that. It's 5:54.